Something happening?
Hello? Carl, is that you? So it's already an adventure. Like, I'm getting feedback.
I'm not sure quite what's happening. All I can hear is like a weird double talk. I'm hearing everything.
Yeah, there's feedback. I'm not.
Lit up above you. Oh,
Where'd it go?
Oh, it's gone again.
Oh my gosh, guys.
Everybody's messaging me because I said, "Can you hear me?" So all my friends are texting me on my phone going, "I can hear you, I can see you." I'm like, "Yeah,
Everybody's
but I
like,
can't
where are you?
respond."
I don't know. It's freaking Skype.
Thank you.
I can't even see an image of me. Where do I?
No,
Yeah,
I
at the top right. Can you guys see us as at the top right?
I've just got like a little icon of
I don't even see myself. This is ridiculous too. I don't know.
No.
This is Skype. It's just being a little bit odd, and I don't understand why.
Yeah.
It's like I've got this
We can
huge
see you.
30-inch screen, and you guys are there, and I'm like, where's my little picture? I can't see anything else, which is not.
Mine is like an inch big in the corner, and I can't see shit
Okay.
here.
See, this worked. I don't know what the hell just happened, but
I
it happened.
I took my glasses off and I can't see jack at all. Anyway,
Yeah, I can't without
Just
mine
follow
either. They're on
along,
the
it's
top of my
okay.
head because they look better in my hair than they do on my face.
Yeah. Just follow along. You'll catch up. It's all right.
Okay. Hamilton's great.
Amelia's trying to con his hat from him.
I want his hat. Can you steal it and sell it to me, Carl? Like, just ship it. I want his hat. That's all I want is the hat.
He's going to be doing some limited edition versions of his hat signed with a.
Yeah, and then I want to like bedazzle it because I like everything sparkly. So
Honestly, Hamilton, you're getting off cheap if you send the hat because I would be asking for a sword or a chalice.
I just want his hat and the one that's on his head. It's not like
don't want much.
You can have it when I retire. How about that? As a retirement.
Oh, jeez.
There won't be much left to it then. He loves that hat. Oh my gosh.
I just want a copy. It doesn't have to be the original.
Oh, we're gonna chat already like active. Okay, so guys, we're here. Welcome. Tell us what the heck have you all been up to since like last time? What was it, April?
Yeah, I mean we've been hanging around trying to get off to film the last bit of episode 5 really. We're finally getting off on Saturday to do that. We're flying out to Spain and then we're going to film around Spain and Montserrat and then we're driving further down to Madrid and then into Portugal to Tomar and Lisbon to finish it off and then yeah, it's going to be good. one of the best bits is going to be when we finish filming, because we're going to hang around for about a week and have a bit of a party, you know.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, not really interested in the filming bit. Well, we're in Tomar. Is that what you're saying? Is it when we finish?
Yeah.
We
I've
have.
lost track on what we're doing.
Hold
Yeah,
on,
I mean,
hold on. We have feedback. coming
Who's
in.
got their
Which
volume
one
up?
of you? Which one of you have your speakers coming out of your? Either one of you have a headset on?
I don't.
no, I don't own
Okay.
it.
Yeah, no, we don't usually have a problem. Okay, it's not coming from my end. Hamilton was just fine. Everybody, okay, maybe it was just like a moment. It's just, it could just be a bloody Skype thing too. So, okay, so
Lucky.
everybody's gonna celebrate, celebrate. We have to get out of like the plague jail first. So,
Right, yeah.
Well, normally, the official word for it is a wrap party. But we never got one on the first series, did we?
We got nothing.
Well,
It was like, right, goodbye. See ya. I think
No,
I heard everybody
well,
for 6 months.
Well, I
I
think
think,
COVID and stuff, it just screwed it all up for us.
yeah, because I think there's gifts involved too. Like, it's a good idea to send a Canadian girl your hat. It gives you good luck when you wrap. It gives you a second season.
Oh no, please. No.
no, she's pretty
Anyway.
freaking relentless. Like I said, you're getting off cheap.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
that-
yeah.
No, I mean, you've been here, haven't you, Carl? I went and had a couple of weeks in Portugal. When did I go? I've lost track of time. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, was it? Something like that. As soon as we could
no,
actually...
you were there last week, Hamilton.
That's it. Was it last week? Was it? Okay. Yeah, it was good. I mean, it was just great to see some sunshine and just be anywhere except England. I mean, it was just bliss, sunshine, and walk about and get sunburnt.
Get sunburned. Yes, you did. Oh, yes,
That
you did.
British skin. Yeah.
I looked like an absolute lobster. I mean, it was just, even I found it amusing. It was very funny. But, no, I mean, other than that, we've just been waiting for the phone to ring. It's just impossible to organise anything at the moment.
But you're not supposed to drink on the beach, though, because then you just pass out and you wake up and you're a whole other color. So it's not my favorite. But, you know. So you look like you had quite some adventures. Did you find anything really exciting?
I was just catching up because, I mean, I hadn't been over there for, well, God, it must be 6 months, or it might even be longer than that. When did we last go somewhere, Carl? We went to Turkey the end of last year. Have we been anywhere since?
Hamilton's living in a fog.
Yeah,
I didn't see that.
Turkey was the last destination, wasn't it, really?
The last foreign trip.
Yeah.
Same
yeah.
thing.
Did you go to Scotland?
I
Or
went
was that?
last week, actually.
Oh, okay.
I went up to a place called Crieff, which is near Perth. Very interesting. It's something we're working on at the moment, but I met a very fascinating lady who's got a painting by Leonardo da Vinci.
Oh,
We went to
wow. Like an original painting? That's
Yeah.
almost unheard of to find one that's not in a museum or super
Well,
private
Good evening, everyone, and
collection.
welcome to the
Yeah.
service. I hope everyone's having a great
No,
evening,
it's
great
the lost
afternoon, great
commission.
morning. We are a
Wow.
worldwide show. This
It's
show
incredible.
does
It's a
really
Madonna
well.
and Child,
That's
but
what we
it's
are.
loaded
Well,
with
interesting stuff
symbolism.
going on. I'm going to talk a little bit
It's
about the
absolutely
G7. Talk a
incredible.
little bit about
Um,
how the
but I
world
was
looks
going to
at
stay
that
there
versus where our
longer.
country looks at that. I'm going to talk a little bit about Canada. What's
After
going on
the
with that
the meeting, I was
a
there
lot
for
of interesting
couple
stuff
of
going
days,
on.
and then I
A lot of stuff in
drove
general
around.
going
I
on
thought,
around
I'll
the
go
world.
on the West
Also,
Coast and
too, we're
have
going to talk a little bit
stay in
about
one of
this
these nice little
supposed
fishing
defection
ports, you know.
of this Chinese
And I
leader
drove up
to
to our
America.
road,
They're saying this
which
guy,
was quite nice.
they say he knows what
We stopped for
politicians
snacks.
and
We
what
do these
business
things
people
called
think stuff to
smokies
China.
and what they
I
are.
was wondering
like,
lately why these Democrats
pie
get all jumpy and funky.
with
Now
A
I kinda
smoky
explain
is
why.
a pie. I love it.
Yeah, now
It's
they're
smoked
talking about
cabbage.
sanctions
So it's
on
like a
China,
big pie
sanctions
with
on
cheese.
Canada,
I just
firing a
lost
bunch of
Michelle
other
as soon
people.
as you
It's
said
going to be
fish.
interesting. But anyway,
Michelle's
we have
just like,
Laura Lee and Michael with us tonight. I'm very glad to see
In
you.
dough.
But that's about usual.
Hamilton
Usually
and I would be off somewhere eating freaking
I'll let Laura Lee
and
properly
drinking.
introduce herself and Michael Wago.
Yeah, and I be eating,
Fine
and I
food.
be eating
Hi, everybody. Welcome.
I know,
Maybe
it's
the
like-
centralist on Friday
Well,
night.
and what's in it? I'd be
On
looking
Friday
for
night
like
tonight, 'cause there's so much to talk
street
about.
meat,
We're
like a
on
hot dog or
7-Eleven in
something.
New Orleans, Louisiana.
Exactly.
I want to remind you guys, please pop
Hot dogs
over
are
to
good.
the
But anyways,
Normal
smoke
Network
addict. You
channel
lost
on
me at
YouTube.
smoke.
That's where we
I don't
can
like
be
anything
talking about chat. Joe,
Well, I
I
thought-
see
I
everybody.
thought
Michael and I
I'll
can
eat
see
it later,
you.
but
Type that
the
in.
plan was to
I have
stop
a show on
at, like,
Monday
to
nights
find
called
a
The
nice
Rock. It's on
sort of
from 8
fishing
p.m.
port,
to 10
book into a
on
hotel in a
Central,
pub,
9 p.m. to 11 p.m.
and go for
Eastern.
fish and chips and get
Yeah,
drunk.
that's about it. So
But
here,
every
Michael,
every fishing village
Hello,
we called, it was
everybody.
beautiful.
How's
But
it
what was
going?
remarkable
What's
was
going
there wasn't
on? What's
one
happening?
pub
Have you seen those
or one
UFOs
cafe or
in the
one
sky
restaurant, not
coming
even.
to get you?
When I say
Have
it
you been
wasn't one,
abducted?
there wasn't
We're not talking
one
about
open.
UFOs tonight, but
There
we're
wasn't
talking
a
about.
pub in the
I
harbour.
think all these shows kind of are
Cafe in the harbour,
interwoven
so we tried the
politics.
next one, the next one, the next
Yeah.
one.
Anyway, but
It's
of
getting
course,
late now, so I'm
I
thinking,
do Discovery
you know, not
Paranormal
even
every
get
Tuesday
anywhere
at
to
8
stay, so
p.m. Eastern,
headed to
and also
place
the
called
Red
St.
Pill
Andrews,
News
which
every
probably
Thursday at
great
8
if you
p.m.
like golf.
Eastern,
I don't do golf.
that's about it.
We headed there, that was a cracking looking place,
other than
but
that, yeah, we've
a
just
bit
about done
dusty,
the
so-
UFO thing too. Yeah, but you know what, Michael, I think you're right.
go to
Like, it's so hard to
Healthy, I like
separate
it.
all this stuff. Like I was
Healthy.
listening to that
Get to
Chinese
that.
female
Andrew's
scientist
gonna
that
work.
defended
There's
the
loads of,
U.S.
you know,
when,
bars and restaurants,
COVID,
and I've
when
never actually
COVID
been.
started.
And just as I got
she
to the
did a speech the
outskirts,
other
all these
day
big
talking
signs on the
about
motorway
what
said
she knew
Edinburgh's
about
under
the Chinese
COVID
government
2
and that she
restrictions,
knew
which
that this
means
is what she was saying,
basically
it's a
you
weapon
go
of
to a
mass
hotel
destruction. She
and
was saying all
you
kinds of
order
stuff.
your
So
drinks
it's,
and
but
your
she's
food in
protected
your room, and
US,
it's
so
like
she can never go back home.
£200
She
a
said,
night. I
which is
thought,
kind
I'm
of
not
sad,
paying
but
that. So
it's a
I ended up
great-
driving home.
I don't know. If I was her, I wouldn't.
So
want
don't
to
I got home after a
Yeah, but I
12-hour
mean, it's
drive.
not the safest place in the world.
Nope.
And then
And yeah, China's up to all kinds of shenanigans. So, but what's going to come of it?
How many you got? I'm sure there's one you can just pluck off a shelf somewhere. Dig deep, Hamilton. It's there somewhere.
No, we haven't got a temple one. They're all wrapped up. We'll just have to make do with a regular medieval one tonight.
Oh, is that all? Be a pity,
Well,
but
that
all
works.
We can see it.
That
No,
was
the-
work.
coming now, aren't we?
So, well done.
What is that made of? There you go.
This is from-
There we are. See, Hamilton's the only one with a fancy cup.
There you go. So fantastic.
I got the
Nice
toddler
sponsors.
sippy thing, but I am the baby here, so.
I've forgotten what their name is. Fogglers?
Sound it out, Hamilton. It's Folgers.
Coffee.
Use your words. Yeah, use your words. That's good.
Yeah.
So,
We got it.
Now,
Folgers. See,
So
I'm hiding
tell
my
us
nails
about-
because the nail salon isn't open. Folgers.
there we go.
Yes,
See, take a
Folgers.
screenshot. You'll remember it next time.
Excellent. Okay. Right, we've messed that up for you. What's next?
So tell us, tell us about the little chalice, medieval chalice you're holding. Or did you find that at the bottom of a river somewhere, or what? Like,
No, I bought that in Switzerland years ago.
Right.
It's just a pretty object, and it's nothing Templar. It's later than that. It's probably, I don't know, 15th, 16th century, something like that.
still, that's still very exciting. It doesn't have to be Templar. I didn't find anything that has some history to it. It's pretty impressive.
It's just a very pretty object. I don't know why. I mean, it's just, what can you say about it? It's just nice. It's just a very pleasing thing to hold. I've never drunk out of it. I mean, you probably get some horrible disease. It's full of green sort of
Awesome.
mercury. No. I just thought, hang on, say that amused them.
I'm
Carl.
scared.
Yes, Carl, amuse us.
We've been talking to the production company about series 2 because obviously they put it all together now with the narrator and the music, and he said it's looking fantastic. So we'll only get to see it when everyone else gets to see it in September. So it'll be quite interesting to see what it's like. Yeah.
Oh,
When's it gonna come to Canada so I can see it? Because I haven't been able to watch it. I can't even get a clip on YouTube. Like nothing.
I have American television, so I see everything. Unfortunate, but we still
She
have to
can
wait.
walk to the U.S. from her house, so she gets American TV.
I know.
Mine's a little bit longer of a walk.
Seriously, yeah, it's great. It's a little bit of a perk, I suppose, but yeah, but I mean, it still airs in the UK first, right? So it'll probably be months before we do it.
They're going to do back to back with series 1 leading up to series 2, so anybody in the UK, and they probably do that the same in the States, I imagine, when
They will.
Discovery broadcast it, because it leads it through, and it's slightly different than series 1 in that it's not all Templar related, but it's all science and stuff. It's all everything's related anyway in reality. Because what's happened when we've been filming this series is you're doing an episode that we can't say what the episodes are, but you're dealing with one subject matter, and you realise that it's all interconnected. You know, all the stories and all the places. You're jumping back and forwards in history, but all the same places and the same dynamics are all coming into play with different stories. So I think that's what's been interesting for me to see. You know, like if you look at, for example, in Galicia on the northern part of Spain, you've got the pilgrim route, there's Camino, on the road to Santiago de Compostela. But actually, prior to St. James, making it the place of veneration, it was coveted and venerated by Celts for 4,000 years ago. That used to follow the Milky Way, because the Milky Way runs across the same path as the Camino. And I think that's quite. We see that with churches, don't we, Hamilton? With they're usually built on.
On much older sites, definitely. Yeah. I mean, the whole going across northern Spain, everybody just sees it as the Camino, but it isn't. I mean, there are much older paths going across there, and I found that was far more interesting than the Christian aspect of it. And it's something to do with the way the planets align, wasn't it, over the route? I forget exactly.
It's the direction of the Milky Way. It follows it. If you look at the Milky Way, it literally runs a line across the same direction from San Jean-Pierre de Port all the way to Santiago de Compostela, and that's the kind. It runs. So
you can go a little bit further, can't you? I mean, we didn't, but there's about another hour, and it takes you to Finisterre, which is right on the as far west as you can possibly get. And that was the end of the older route, wasn't it? To actually get to the water and look out over the water, I think was what we were told.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's another story in itself. The whole. I mean, that takes you back to the Celts and
Yes.
Neolithic period. So it's and like when we went to Short last year, for part of this second series. And again, that's built on an ancient site over springs. If you go to London, where the temple is in City, that's built on an ancient spring which was worshipped and supposed to
But
have
that's
magical.
normal, wasn't it? Like for the churches to all build over these incredible power spots and older temples, like they would incorporate some of the, like even pagans, like, I mean, the church wasn't a fan of pagans, but they incorporated everything pagan, and made it their own over time. So you see that a lot throughout Europe.
Totally. I mean that's it. It's two things. I mean, well, it's more than two things, but one, you can eradicate a previous belief system by stealing that site and putting your brand on the site. But the other aspect is that the new religion or the new brand that's sitting on top of it, as much as they're trying to eradicate the previous belief system, it obviously believes that there's some power and authority in that environment that pre-exists. So that in its own right, shows you that the previous, the previous aspect that people were, going to those sites and venerating them and feeling energy or whatever the power that is in those sites still exists and is valued by, whether it's the Catholic Church, the Vatican, or Islam, or any church really. They're all looking for these powerful positions to promote their own brand, I suppose.
No, it's exciting.
It is. I mean, you noticed it most when we were over in Israel, that on the Temple Mount, going from the initial Jewish thing several thousand years ago to Islam to Christianity and back again, all within a few hundred yards of each other, isn't it, on the top of the mount?
Yeah, I mean, the old town of Jerusalem's an incredible place. Anyway,
Fabulous.
When we got there, that there's, it's split into four quarters effectively. You've got the Jewish quarter, the Muslim quarter, the Christian, Roman Catholic quarter, and then you've got the Armenian quarter. They've been there for so long, and I think everyone gets on generally. I know there's trouble, flare-ups all the time, but there seems to be, they seem to manage to coexist without too much trouble over the centuries.
Yeah. I mean, you look at, I guess they all leave their mark at some place. Every time you conquer a location, you'll see little bits and pieces of how many times it had been conquered. And that to me is, that's pretty exciting, because it just goes to show you how many layers there are to some of these locations. It's just, I love history. Like, I'm a history fanatic. So for me, especially ancient history, it's always been something that I've enjoyed and excelled in. And when you see it all in person, it's just nothing that the history books can teach you. Carl, I think you spoke often about your father telling you medieval stories, and you got so much into it. But now that you're seeing all of this for yourself, it's got to have an entirely different feel. You really get a better understanding for it,
Yeah, it kind of compresses time in a way that when you're a kid, you read books and they're totally. You can use your imagination to. As a child, you view it differently anyway than a grown up.
Mm-hmm.
When you grow up, you kind of detach from that. You don't have the same ability to play with history like you did when a child. But when you're doing what we're doing, or people who read books, you get creative and you start to look at it. I've found that it doesn't seem as far away as it used to in my mind. The closer you study it, the closer the past comes forward, and it feels you can relate to the people more. You realise they are real people. They're not. They have the same consciousness that we had, and the same sort of desires and joys and sadnesses, and they had their ups and downs like modern humans. They had desires, they had ambitions, they had they had dreams, and dreams that were broken. I mean, sadly, a lot of people did die young in the past, and we're lucky in that way that our lifespans are increasing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people died. You died when you was like 30, 35, 40, and that was a good innings, So we get to look at, I mean, it's like
progress.
Penicillin
has its perks, like age.
Penicillin has its perks. Penicillin does. King
penicillin
Henry VIII could have used penicillin.
could use quite a bit of penicillin for what he was up to, but it's too short anyway, isn't it? Life. I mean, if you had 1,000 years, it would still be too short. So we have to just hope. Hamilton wants to check out quickly, I think.
Oh my gosh, Hamilton! You have too much to do. Forget about it.
I'm with Hamilton.
Yeah, there's so many things, they're going on that you're going to come back, you're having another life and all this reincarnation. I'm not coming back. I'm out of here. Trust me, I've done enough.
That's what everybody says.
I don't want to come back. I don't want to go to school again.
Enough,
Seriously, it was just enough. No.
Imagine if you snuff it and the next thing you wake up and you've got a shell on your back and your tentacles are popping up. I mean, what would you think if that was your lot?
I think what a happy life. I'm by the beach. That's my dream, is to live out the rest of my years on the beach.
Well,
you can have the beach.
I was talking to somebody the other day about previous lives, and people, when you meet mediums or people who can see what you might have been in the past and that, and the problem is when you talk, people go, "Oh yeah, I've been told in the past I was a prince, or I was nobody was a bin man, worthy, or garbage collected in the streets."
But I think there are, because you can live like 400 or 500, 1,000 prior lives. You know what I mean? Like, if you think about the grand scheme of, let's say if you're going back to Atlantis, that's 10,000 years ago. You could have been like a street sweeper. I think people just lean towards those more.
To actually say it though, that I was just I used to pack shelves at the supermarket in my previous life, but everyone seems to be a prince or a famous. Something like that. Nobody does mundane stuff in the previous life, so unless all these places are very populated by millions of princes and
I think it's just selective. You're like, screw that. I'm doing this in this life. I'm going to lean on that life, and I don't want to hear about all the rest, But
yeah, I mean, we found it particularly amongst the sort of the crew that are down in the zone in the southwest of France. Everybody's a reincarnated. They were at Montségur. They were a prince. I mean, we've never met a normal person, have we? Not one.
I'm normal. You met me. For the most part, I'm normal. I've never been a queen or anything like
I'm
that.
not normal.
Nothing. Most of
And
my
I wear that
lives I've
crown
died.
proudly.
I've died young. Yeah,
Well,
I've died very young in most of my lives.
If
Yeah.
anybody asks me, no, I haven't been anywhere before and I'm not coming again. So you just have to make do with what's here
Well,
at the moment. And that's
You
it.
you could
Yeah.
just keep on with that, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I
we'll
want to
let
come
you have
back
it
as
just
my.
because. We'll just let you have it, but we know
Mm.
different.
I
But,
want to come back as my dog owned by me. That's what I
Yeah.
want to come back as.
Dogs are good.
Versace owned by Amelia. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
Dogs
got the best life.
But no, I mean the whole religious-y thing. I mean, we've been to some fabulous places, like that really are the centre of religions, or pilgrimages. But to me, there's like nothing registered in the way of sort of, hey, religion's great. The whole thing is fascinating, and I mean, the history surrounding all of the places is brilliant. But I just get a different take on it from Carl. That the whole suddenly, no, I don't really want to do any praying. Still doesn't do it for me. I want to just go and look at the lovely buildings instead. I mean, you pick up differently, don't you, Carl? You tune in much better to that aspect.
It's not tuning in. It's and you don't believe in anything beyond this realm, and I do. That's the difference.
He believes in reincarnation though, because he doesn't want to do it. So he's got to have a belief in it a little
He
bit.
has fear in it, so yeah.
Maybe he does believe, but he just doesn't say. But I believe. I'm totally confident that when your spacesuit wears out, you go back to the dimension that you came from, and your consciousness is ungoverned then, because I think when you come here, they put like a governor on your consciousness and your intelligence, so you're probably throttled on this earthly realm by 1,000th of what your conscious may be, or maybe it's 10,000 or 10 million. But when your spacesuit fails, and that's the time when you don't die, you just go back to where you came from. When you go back, your consciousness is completely open then, and maybe you'd have a holiday from Earth. For somebody said you get 1,000 years for every year you was on the planet. Rest. So your vacation, if you snuff it at 80, you've got 80,000 years to lark about in the universe.
I wonder. That's an interesting concept.
That's what I heard. And then somebody else said something fantastic. He said, well, what would you do when you die? And he said, well, God created such a massive universe. He needs architects and designers and people to build and form these planets to create paradises for everybody. And if you want to do that when you die, you can have your own galaxy and say, right, and what a fantastic prospect that would be to say, right, look, I've got 15 planets in this one to work on. I've got 80,000 celestial years to work them. And I've got God's will to do what I want with them. And I can terraform planets just by thinking of an idea. And this one's going to have peach sky in the morning and purple sky at night. This one's going to have turquoise sky with raspberry ripples running through and pink sea. And,
so you're going to be the guy with the
like
little, the little notepad saying, hey, God, I have an idea. Hey, God, can we do this? You said, can we do it?
Yeah, I think he'll just give you the toolkit to just do it. Say, fill your boots, and if you get naughty and do what Lucifer did, then he'll come down hard on you.
It can work against you for sure. So
absolutely.
I think you're having a schizoid embolism, aren't you there, Hamilton?
Well, I think all of this is going to your head a little bit. You're one stage away from the guys who are wandering down the street in a caftan banging a tambourine at people. So I think you need to sort of maybe calm down a little bit.
So you're one of the tambourine people.
Oh my
still pointing your tambourine when we walk by. What is that?
I would hope you'd give him more than a coin. He's got a nice hat.
I know, but he might not have that hat if he was in another life. That's the Hamilton this life. But if you're 80,000 years up there, no wonder people are like screaming to get back here. So I don't know.
Go to after that. Maybe this is a down level, and it might be that you're on that level and you go through to the 80 light years or whatever. But then you might want to go up a dimension. We tend to think of up, down, left, right, linear dimensions, but there's many other dimensions. We can't even comprehend the potential dimensions, what it means to even conceptualize.
You can live in multiple dimensions at a time. So part of you can be taking your break, and other parts of you can just be living other lives.
That'd be very productive, wouldn't it?
Oh, you'd be very
More
busy, I'm
dangerous.
sure. I know.
Wayne Mello says, I've thought that for years, Carl. Good on you, mate. He's also from England, so.
What happens if you go to this place for 80,000 years and you don't like your neighbour?
I love that.
But if you don't like your neighbor, like right now,
Just boot him out and watch him fall. That's all.
Yeah, you don't like your neighbours anyway, so what do you do about it now?
What do you do about
Hamilton's like,
neighbours?
that's an idea.
you put up a really big fence.
Yeah, or just move.
Move to
What's
a better
that?
neighborhood.
Move.
That's what we do now.
Or be diplomatic and friendly and make friends and get to like them.
He's like, what?
Huh? I'm a little bit like
How do you
Hamilton. I
require
think
me
I'm
talking to
more
people?
private.
See?
Yeah.
No,
I live in the
totally
country.
get you. The same
Yeah.
way.
I live in the country for a reason.
Well, maybe your universe can just be that it's got a force field around it. Nobody else can come in except you, and you can be
Yeah.
down for 80,000 years. How does
You're
that
a
sound?
perk. You
That's
learn a thing
okay.
or
As
two
long
after
as it,
that
as
amount of
long as I
time.
have Turks and Caicos at my fingertips, I'm good.
I think
Yeah.
it's a planet,
Okay.
don't
I
they?
will be traveling. I'm not hanging out anywhere. I'm going to travel around in the ether, just, spook the people that I don't really like, and maybe a few that I
Got a
actually
list.
like. And and then just go around and travel. And, that's what I'm going to do. I'm busy. I'm always busy. I cannot see myself just sitting somewhere. I can't sit
No,
on the
Michelle's
beach
gonna
and
leave
waste
messages
precious
on
time.
people's mirrors.
Yeah, no, that
Yeah.
would be
You're gonna
great.
leave
Pop out of
messages.
people's mirrors. Yeah, that works. Okay.
Yeah, if you could come back and make a nuisance of yourself, yeah, that would be different. Maybe that would be. Yeah. Yeah.
There, you see,
Yeah.
there's already a light at the end of your tunnel, Hamilton. So you're getting some ideas.
Yeah. I mean, the only
Hamilton's he's gonna build himself a McDonald's in his
Yes.
his 80,000 years.
No, don't tell me there's freaking McDonald's over there.
it would be very depressing if you went.
Cheapers, come on.
You know.
It's not even funny.
What's wrong with you lot with McDonald's? I think it's okay. There's a time and place for McDonald's.
I believe it's different in the UK and in Europe. Because my cousin came from Rome and she had it here and she said, "Oh my God, it tastes so different." But she preferred it here, where I prefer it there.
Oh, everything glows in the freaking dark here.
So does the wine
Honestly.
I drink, but it doesn't matter.
I can. Oh my
stop
God, he's got a
drinking the
freaking
wine?
golden arch. Oh, for Pete's sakes!
Oh my
You would have
God.
one too, wouldn't you?
Yes.
What exactly
Okay.
do you do with that, though?
Well,
Does
I
it
just
glow?
Yes, really.
modern art.
Does
Modern.
it go at the top of your Christmas tree?
No, I don't do Christmas. I hate Christmas.
Just put it over a
hate
door,
Christmas?
and yet next thing
Oh
you just have
my
like an arch.
gosh.
It's just a great thing, you know. If
You
walk
would have one. Why am I not surprised you actually have
Oh
one?
my God. But Hamilton hates Christmas. Now you lost me.
He goes,
That's it.
It's in, the thing
Halloween's my favorite holiday. Just saying.
No,
you know,
I decorate for that. I don't for everything else.
I love
About 4
Christmas. I love
years.
Christmas. I could have a tree up all year.
It's the spirit. It's what's
About 4
inside.
years ago, I went up to Hamilton's and I took some presents for him and his mum, and I got there before Christmas. And when I knocked at his door, I had these pictures. He had this puzzled look on his face. He said, "What are they?" I said, "Oh, just a few presents for you and your mum." And he was totally perplexed, wasn't he?
utterly. We don't do presents at all. We just don't bother with it.
Oh,
Did he throw you a relic?
love-
Here,
I mean, it
I
was great.
didn't have time to get you anything.
No, we
no, he
Shop at
doesn't believe in
Hamilton's.
it.
we
I
don't
know.
make excuses. We just don't bother. But no, I mean, Carl bought this great big box, and I mean, like on Christmas Day, me and Mum opened it, and it was like a Super Fortnum and Mason's hamper.
Wow.
We didn't quite know what to do. It's like,
Because they don't exchange gifts. So it's just like this
Yeah.
primitive thing going, what do we do with it?
yeah, I mean, what's the
We
catch? I mean,
reciprocate?
what's it all about? It was just, I don't know about this. We'll put this somewhere and
Oh
think
my
about this a bit.
gosh.
Hey, not everybody celebrates. Not everybody celebrates.
No, they
I
don't.
love to
celebrate
give for
all
Christmas. I
year.
do. I love giving gifts.
Yeah.
I love giving gifts
Yeah.
all the time.
Next
All
year.
year. Michelle and I are good at surprising each other with gift cards and things just out of the
Or
blue. We're
just
really
like-
good at that.
What to give? The gift of giving.
Yeah, she'll tell me she's driving somewhere, and then all of a sudden I'll just send her a Starbucks gift card. I go, here, I want to buy you coffee. She's
I
like,
know.
oh my God, yes.
I know. It's
Yeah.
I think
It's
that's fine.
I'm
fun.
gonna get high on sugar now. That's
My
great.
nephew's
Not
gonna
too
kill
much
me because
better
I just ordered a whole bunch of chocolate and chips and everything for his kids, for my nephew's kids, because school's done. He's gonna kill me. And I know he's not watching because he's watching them, but he's gonna kill me tomorrow.
That's it.
It's
Why are
just
the kids up?
nice.
That works. Do you
They're,
like your
they
brother?
rule.
So-
They rule the house. They rule the house.
Well, it's more
Yeah.
sensible if you see something. Oh, whatever. Mum would like a book, or or bits and pieces. Or
Yeah.
you just
Or
give it
diamond
to-
earrings.
Why do you have to turn around and say, oh, I'm sorry, you can only have something on the 25th of December. You'll have to wait 8 months. It's a stupid system. Absolutely
You
ridiculous.
never have to wait 8 months. It's just that day is special because everybody has that spirit. It's about the spirit. I do a lot of charity at Christmas.
I'm sorry, the
That's what
Christians
works
will
for
say
me.
different.
Well, I'm sorry, but yeah,
Okay.
I was raised Roman
And
Catholic.
I usually
was
bring
raised
it
Roman
down with
Catholic,
the
but I
pagan story.
disagree.
So
Yeah, I disagree with that part. With
no, dates
anyways,
are all wrong. It's the spirit
they
of
are
giving.
all
But the
wrong.
Christians will say, no, that's
Well,
commercial.
it's funny
Christmas,
because
that's
the
not
church has no
Christian.
trouble taking my but the church has no trouble taking my check at Christmas.
It's like, I know.
So
Or the new roof. you know.
The other
But,
thing that I would point out,
right.
with all of the church rattling on about Christmas and all and that, well, wasn't it the Roman Catholics that nailed him up in the first place?
What was the
Thank you, Hamilton.
Catholics? It was the Romans. There's no
Was it?
Roman
Or
Catholics.
Catholics not been invented there?
Not then, no. I
Okay.
think St. Peter had to get to Rome first before that, and that was about 200 years after Jesus was crucified. So not 200.
And then he was
It had to-
crucified upside down.
Yeah, it had
So
to be
What?
his lifetime, didn't it?
It's
So
a
I think
whole
about 30
melee.
years after Jesus was crucified, St. Peter went to Rome,
Yeah.
and that was the germ of it. And he actually became the first pope.
Right.
So it wasn't till Jesus was crucified that the notion of the church even began, really, for Christianity. And that's the first Christian church was the Armenian Church in 301, the Orthodox apostolic. The apostolic.
They have beautiful churches.
Yeah, they do. There used to be in Armenia. There's a valley called a Valley of 1,000 churches, and there was thousands of churches, but obviously over the years, a lot of them have been sacked with with a lot of the things that went on there. But that was the first kind of church really that started it all off, and even the Orthodox Church split. That had a schism. So you've got a big split going on there, But,
I love the architecture. They did it right. I mean, I have pieces that I'll buy and incorporate. A confectional door becomes the entrance into the parlor. So, it's just, I love the architecture of it all. Yeah, there's a couple of new pieces. No, that's just the background. There's 2 other ones. The 2 other pieces.
No, but I mean, you have that piece from a church, right?
They all come from,
We've
Yeah.
actually got an incense burner, haven't we, Hamilton? It's like a little kind of not an incense burner, but like we think it might have held frankincense or
Yes.
little church. And I got something out today. Me and Hamilton were talking about what could we show something on the show. So
Oh, yeah, goody. Show and tell.
I decided not to show more chalices because we don't want to chalice people out. We think people might get overload.
It's always fun, whatever you guys share with us, because it's just something that people aren't going to see, whether it's Templar related or something you found in your travels. Anything that's got history is always exciting.
Well, I don't know what you brought, Hamilton. What was you?
Oh, I've got all sorts around me. You dig out, and I just left it to you.
Okay, well, I brought this, and I'm going to put a light on it. I don't know whether you can see that.
Oh, wow.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Maybe
Up
without
a little
the
bit
light.
higher.
Let's see.
So it's a plate. It's got Qua Celeste on it, and it's got the Latin initials IH.
The light away. All I can see is bright orange.
Oh, can you? Let me turn the light off. Is that any better?
Yes. It doesn't
Yeah.
have a glare on it. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So we see the cross in there. There. That's
There we go.
beautiful.
Spot on,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah. So it's got the Qua Celeste on it, and
If
It's
you could bring it up just a little bit.
yeah, and it's inscribed with IHS, which stands for In Hoc Signo Vinces, which means by this sign we will conquer. And it's interesting because what happened Constantine saw that sign in his dream, which was the sign of the cross. And that gave him the confidence to sack and conquer Rome. But it was also saw by King Alfonso Enrique, who was the king of Portugal, and he was a Templar leader in 1135, I think it was. And he saw that sign the night before they were going into battle against the Almoravid Moors in Portugal. They were led by a guy named Ali ibn Yusuf, and he saw this sign in the sky, and the next day it gave him the confidence to go and fight and wage war, and he won. So it's just great to actually see the cross and that coming together there in one
Yeah,
piece.
that's a
This is
beautiful piece.
like it's an agate or
Yes,
something.
Wow.
Very
Really?
translucent. It's beautiful. It's finely carved. It looks like it's turned and then engraved somehow, but a really fine dish.
It's in beautiful condition. How old do you estimate this? This is when?
Well,
it's Templar period or possibly earlier.
yeah.
Wow.
All of the agate pieces may very well have come from Constantinople.
Wow.
It
That
is
was
possibly, isn't it?
Yeah.
Originally.
Yeah.
And it's translucent, you can see through it. I don't know what you can see there, but it's in some parts, it's virtually almost like clear glass. So it's a crystalline kind of mineral that it's made from, because agate comes in many different colours and different opacities.
Mhm.
Some of it's really translucent, and some of
It's
it.
really held up. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful piece. The carvings still appear to be very crisp. They're very detailed.
Well, it's quite possible that's another one of the pieces that could have been inlaid in gold, because the actual sort of carved images into it.
Right.
You can't say for sure, but it's not impossible that was inlaid with gold, the same as some of the chalices were.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. That's a beautiful piece.
I
What
love
the-
agate.
What the purpose
Actually,
of it is, we don't
Oh,
know.
On the cross, there's a dome in the centre that protrudes out. This actual section here is actually a dome, and I think Hamilton's right. It was almost certainly inlaid in some precious metal, But it's fantastic. And looking at that, you know, the other symbol that sits alongside that's the famous Chi Rho, you know, the Christian symbol that the Vatican use, which is like, how would you describe, have you got an example at Hamilton, or how would you describe it?
Not to hand. I mean, it's two letters from the Greek alphabet that is supposed to be like an abbreviated version of the word Christ, isn't it? But it's depicted in sort of a symbol as opposed to actually writing the full word. And I mean, that goes back really to the very, very early Christian period, the sort of Constantine the Great period.
Constantine cross, isn't it, in part?
Yeah.
The actual cross, and it's got like a staff that runs through the centre with a P, kind of.
Let me see if I can
Right. Yes.
What was said about that was the Templars would actually saw that as when Templars are buried, they usually cross the legs and bones. They usually break the bones. This is where the skull and crossbone comes from. A lot of the grave markers.
Oh, interesting.
Templar graves have a skull on the top and the crossbones, and
Yes.
it has actually been said that there was, I don't know how true it was, that potentially that there was originally the first pirates were not necessarily pirates.
They were Templars.
Templars that use that symbol, because you'll see on certain grave markers the skull and crossbones, and it's interesting that it's come from the Chi Rho, that whole idea, you know. So the Constantine thing comes through on this, you know, this IHSV. You know, that's being used, and the idea of seeing a vision in the sky to follow the cross. It's all gone through for us, Hamilton said, from the Byzantine period and Constantine.
Yeah, you know, so I mean, the Templars are certainly picking up on ideas that had already been running for sort of 800, maybe longer, when they picked it up. And it's the same thing is on several of the other vessels as well, in different sizes. So, I mean, they were running with what was already a very ancient belief system.
May I ask, does this piece come from the Tomar Horde, or was this? Oh, it does, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think I can't remember how, I think there's 4 or 5 agate pieces that all totally different. Or maybe there's 6, I can't remember. You know, some of this stuff I haven't actually seen for years. It's all created up, Carl's in charge of it. I forget what's actually up there now. But I think there's
pity.
5 or 6 pieces.
You know, I mean, it's funny because agates, you wonder, you think of the Templars as being these, you know, because they believed in piety and, you know, poverty and modesty and all, chastity. So everything they touched was going to be very austere and brutally masculine. But actually, you know, they did have fine vessels. And one of the things what we've been looking into, which is interesting, if you talk about, for example, you know, cups and grails and stuff like that, if you go back to the old Passover Jewish rituals, before they drink from a vessel, it's got to be cleansed, you know, to make it kosher. And one of the great things about stuff like agate and stone is it's not porous. So for a high ritual, they would never have used pottery that wasn't glazed, or they would never have used wood, because it would hold, it would be impure before a ritual. But with something like that, which is agate, you can be sure that there's no crevices or areas where food or, you know, contamination could have occurred. It could have been made pure and clean. And the Templars were very, very well known for living long lives. And one of the things they were always doing was washing properly before meals, and rituals were all about cleanliness and hygiene. And, you know, it must come back to, you know, pre-Jesus days with, you know, Jewish rituals and, you know, how they looked after themselves. And that's why some of these these ritual bowls we're seeing are so fine, and so they come from very they probably come from very wealthy people before they were acquired by the Templars and rebranded, as you can see with some of them, and some of them commissioned in that material from inception.
I think the lifestyles, I mean, didn't they base it on the Gnostics and the Essenes and the Cathars, and but just sort of carried through a little bit? I thought I read at one point that the Cathars are practically vegan, except for fish, because for some reason they didn't think fish fell under vegan menu. But I think in some of the literature that I've read that the Templars weren't far off. I mean, they did indulge in meat and things like that, but just not often.
Well, by the standards of the medieval period,
Mm-hmm.
they were leading actually quite cultured lives in terms of food and drink and how they were functioning. I mean, they were way above the common man. They were doing certain days where they would be fasting. I think you only ate meat a certain number of times during the month. I mean, it was very well organized, but in its period probably would have seemed very strange to the rest of the world. But when you look at it now, it was probably very close to being a healthy, balanced diet.
Yeah. So also, we were talking about this when we filmed in Israel last time, that they would have had the cuisine from the region. So, Templars who were in France would have had the local cuisine there, or what was available. And if they were in Israel, they would have had Middle Eastern food. They would have had, things like, the leavened bread or unleavened bread and hummus and chickpea, wine. They just would have took what's available locally.
Wine. Wine, good.
Yeah, that works.
I read that they ate. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, like the original founding Templars were nobility, so they were used to the best. They didn't live on a diet prior to being Templars of bread and water. They had the best of the best. They were, the upper echelons of society, and even as time passed on, I'm sure they didn't give everything up like that. Once you've had a nice claret, you're not going to give that up, are you? You're going to still have to have a nice glass of wine now and again.
Yeah, absolutely.
I read that they ate a lot of grain because it was easy to carry. They couldn't store the meat, so if they had meat, they would hunt like an animal that was small, like a rabbit or a small boar, because they didn't want to. They couldn't take it with them.
Well, that's how
it was a lot of grain.
That's how the Romans conquered Europe, because grain is the best logistical food to take with you, because not only can you carry it and use it, but you can plant it if you make a base camp and create crop. You can trade for it, and it doesn't rot, like meat or that. So grain has always been a key critical thing. But that's where the Templars had problems, in some of the Crusades going back, because it wasn't quite thought through when they were going to the Middle East, about how much water they need in certain environments. There was many crusades and battles where they were starving and thirsty because they didn't have enough provisions. It just wasn't always that well planned.
Yeah, it's sad to think about it. Really hard times for sure.
When you had the Battle of Hattin, on the horns of Hattin, they were absolutely parched with thirst, and that was part of the reason that they got in trouble. So logistics plays a massive part in warfare, whether all armies have faced that, and that's the barrier to success in many instances.
Exactly. I get a feedback again.
Or at least as McDonald's, Hamilton?
Yeah, we'll be fine. Yeah, I have no problem. Amelia, I'm just looking at what's behind you. What's with the U.S. Army water bottle?
I'm impressed that you caught that. My nephew just bought that for me, and he surprised me by shipping it to me, because I have a rosary from World War I, And this is from World War I. It's actually dated on it, February, I believe, what was it? I have to check it. But yeah, he just gifted it to me last week. He had it shipped to me. He's found it at an auction and he bid on it. And he's like, yeah, he's a good nephew. He's a really good. I'm very lucky. But yeah, he really, it was really, really sweet when I saw it. I was just so overwhelmed. But he's like, oh, it's gonna go perfect in your office. I'm like, and I was thinking, and Michelle's like, I didn't know you collect anything World War I. I'm like, I don't. I have one rosary that a chaplain carried, and I have it with documentation on it. But yeah, so I whatever I see at an auction, I collect a lot of haunted stuff. I don't really, and this one, when I held it, gave me a ton of energy, and I could see the passageways and stuff like that. So I'd like to go into meditation with it to get more of a story on it. I've only had it for a few days.
So
that's impressive that you saw that. I've also got an exorcism box from the same era right next to it.
Okay.
It's not from the war. Yeah. That's from the 1900s.
That would have been inconvenient to be carting that thing around, just saying. Boots on the ground, carrying an exorcist box.
And I'm sure I'm sure they had a need for it.
Oh, I'm sure.
With war. And and then the rosaries that are on the Virgin Mary behind me are all auction pieces that I've purchased over the years that have come from different convents and different churches. And back then, the convents, they would have their own special rosary, the nuns, the priests, and they would pray on it. And there's some that you could see the wear in them, and they'd have it their whole lifetime. And when they passed away, they would take these rosaries and put them in the walls of the churches or the convents. So when these churches and convents came down, I know someone who was picking up the pieces, and I bought a few. As you can tell, there's just a few. But I love rosaries. So
and some of us just like weapons.
For me. Not that I. Yeah,
so
it's not.
That's the only part that we're polar opposites.
You can't see the other side of my office. You can't see the other side of and crucifixes. I have a wall of crucifixes. Like I'm just this far from a horror film, my wall. And I do have Templar, thanks to Michelle. I do have a Templar cross on the wall and a scene, so a print. But I can't. If I turn the computer, it'll be kind of weird. But
it'll get weird.
Tons of. I have crucifixes from the 1800s, from the 1900s. Yeah, it's to make up for all my sins.
War stuff's not overly exciting. You know what I mean? Like it's just when you get. It's nice.
It is for me.
Well, it is. I mean, I bought my son a Russian officer's sword, and I ended up with a whole collection of World War I and World War II stuff. And I was like, because the elderly people didn't have family, and it came from England and Nazi Germany, and like a flag, big, crazy, monstrous flag. And she goes, well, you have to take everything, but I don't want everything. I just want the weapon. But it's like, no. So now I've got all this stuff. It's like boxed and stored. So, because it doesn't blend in with anything. So, it's nice.
I've got creepy stuff. Like I have stuff from asylums. I have glass syringes and the IV bottles with glass and the tube with glass. I got really creepy stuff. I just like to be, that's just me though.
It's just like being different,
Everybody's afraid to come in my office. It's hilarious because I have a couple dolls and stuff, but it keeps everybody out. It's my own space. So it's the only place I'm allowed in the house to have it.
That's everywhere here.
I don't think
not my house. Yeah.
It's only people's perception on what's creepy. It's
that's right. Michelle has skulls.
I've got lots of human skulls and taxidermy and
it's like going to places, isn't it? Some places you can go to and you just walk through the door and immediately it's like, no, don't want to be here. This is horrible.
I've yet to find one. I'll go anywhere. I don't care. I'm brave.
I had a funny one years ago because my cousin, she was going out with this guy and he never told her what he did for a living. So in the end, she said, look, if you don't tell me what you do for a living, that's the end of it. I'm going to call it a day on the relationship. So he wouldn't tell her, so she wouldn't answer his calls. And he kept banging on the door. He said, I'm going to marry you. I'm going to marry you. And she said, well, you'll have to tell me what you do for a living. And it turned out he was an undertaker. His family were undertakers. In a place called Brighton.
That's awesome, though.
So she
That
said,
wouldn't scare me, but the fact that he was knocking and banging, saying, I'm going to marry you, would scare the crap out of me. I'd run the other way.
so she ended up marrying him. And not only did she end up marrying him, she ended up taking an embalming course, a funeral doctor.
Good for her.
She loves the job and, you know, embraced the whole thing. And I remember as a kid, I thought, oh, that's a bit weird. You know, they invited us up for Sunday dinner once, and the house was above the funeral parlour. And I thought, oh, no, I can't be having my Sunday roast.
I brought out
Oh, I
funeral homes.
like funeral
I had a
homes.
huge funeral collection.
Yeah,
I just
I
sold
like
most of the
funeral
funeral
homes as well.
collection.
Yeah.
Really? What
I
did you
have
have?
no problem because I have conversations with them, right? Being a medium, I'm constantly seeing spirits. So for me, it's just like walking into a room full of people. It's not the same. I don't have any, not at all. Like I could
I
walk
just
through the
watched
whole
a
thing in
horror
the dark,
film.
be fine.
Well, we
No.
saw horror films from America as kids, you know. There was one, oh God, I've seen loads of them, and it was just the Hammer House of Horrors, and you just think of, you know, dead people, and it's like you're
But they
scared.
just make it worse than it
Hollywood.
has to be, honestly.
Yeah.
We had a good part of the house had like coffins and caskets and everything. I parted with a good chunk of it just last year, and I have one that I kept was an Oddfellows 1854 toe pincher coffin, and it had but they were using a paper mache skelly in it instead of, you know, obviously putting their grandmaster in there, and it's in beautiful condition. It's the only one out of everything that I've kept, out of all my funerary pieces and the church pieces, and I've got skulls and skeletons, and you know, I think somebody has to be
Yeah,
caretaker
I'm not
for
that
them, right?
extreme.
As collectors, you would have to understand that, right? Like
Totally. Yeah.
you have to, like my oldest
We'll
skull
let
is like
Michelle do
600 or
that.
700 years old, you know, like,
Okay.
so somebody's got to watch
Yeah.
out for it.
Skulls and skeletons, I've got no problem with that. It's just there's a thing in my mind, a macabre sort of image as a kid of, you know, undertakers and all these scary things.
I don't do weird ceremonies with them or anything. That's just thinking. They're all
She
behind
just
glass,
takes
but
care of them.
I take care
Yeah.
of them. Yeah, it's just weird.
I mean, I think,
You
yeah,
get used to it after you've been to her house a few times, sitting in the dining room and looking at skulls and the curio is just normal.
But it's a medieval
You have to
dining
be
room.
there a few
Everything's
times.
just old and carved, and
Did
they
you
blend right
like-
in the corner. It's
did
just
you like
like,
the Addams Family when you was a child?
sorry,
Did you like the Addams Family when you was a
very
child?
much so. And among
She
others,
still does.
I
it's
loved
actually my ringtone. It's such a weirdo, but I
She
am.
still does. Yeah.
I do. It is. It's crazy, but I don't know. There's just some pieces, like, you know, some pieces just sort of call to you. There's a lot of stuff I got rid of. There's a lot of stuff that I believe, much like Hamilton, things find you and you end up having to take care of it. Like I said, I'm not big into the war stuff, as Hamilton can attest to with what little package I sent him. Here you go. This is so not for me. But
That
you
is
place
for a
things
special
where they
person,
need
though.
to be,
Yeah.
right? That's just the way it goes. It has to keep going on a journey. And eventually these pieces will find their way. And after a while, you just meet people and you're like, you know what? You're the person that should have this. And I'm sure there'll be other people I meet in my life that will look at parts of my collection and go, you know what? The journey won't end with me. It'll move on. I can't take it with me.
Yeah.
So it's best that it move on to somebody else who can do something with these pieces. Right. So
I already told my daughter after I updated my will, I said to her, I know it's going to be difficult for you to go through my office, but should I pass before Michelle, and I prayed I do, because I don't think I could handle her going first.
oh my
I
gosh.
said, you make sure that it goes to her and just let her come in and she'll take care of it. And she's like, okay, that works for me, because she won't come in here. And the printer's in here. So when she prints something, she just leaves it there. And I have to find it and then deliver it to whoever just printed something. I'm like, really? It's not a big deal. You know, I think my chair, that 400-500-year-old chair I have in the corner, is a lot more dangerous than the dolls or the water canteen
No,
or,
it's
the
fine now.
crosses. Yeah,
Took you a
it's
while,
fine
but-
now, but I mean, for a long time it was bad. But
No, you're funny.
everybody has to there has to be a caretaker for everything, everything. And I think, what would we do without undertakers? They are a special kind of people.
I
They
love
really
them.
are, because they're
I-
taking care of people at the worst point, period,
I-
after the
I-
passing. And I have a great deal of respect for them.
I do. I met a girl, and I don't know how we got talking. And I said, "What you doing?" She said, "Oh, I address bodies at an undertaker's." And I said, "Can I ask you what, do you like doing it?" She said, "Oh, I love doing it." And I said, "Why?" She said, "Well, I get to look after them and present them for the families in the best possible light." And she said, "I'm proud of what I do." And she said, I thought, I totally get that. And I never even considered that type of world before. And then we got talking about some of the funny aspects of it. She said about these thing called caps. I said, "What are caps?" She said,
God, I had so many of those.
she said,
Just put them under.
"When you die, the first thing that just drains away your eyeballs." So they've got these like caps that they just put in under your eyelids to give the illusion that your eyes are still there. But actually,
If I would have known to talk about this, I had pulled out some caps, because I think I kept a couple of boxes out of like a gazillion that I had when I bought out the funeral home. Yeah.
So you
just
I don't
plastic
want to
things.
do that.
It's creepy when you see the children ones, though.
really?
Like this, I know it is. It is.
That's
There's
the
some
one thing I
stuff
can't
is-
handle.
No,
Yeah.
that's really. I had a lot of child funerary pieces, and they're really wiggy. They really are. So
Yeah, I can't.
just
I
get to that
can't handle
point
that.
where
When you've
it's-
been to a funeral for a child, you cannot.
Mhm.
No, it's
No.
just too much. There's nothing like seeing that little casket. It just stays with you for the rest of your life. That's why I said I have a great deal of respect for these people.
Mhm.
I agree with you.
But
Yeah.
I mean, back to more exciting things like medieval stuff.
Yep.
Gloom and doom. We're going to talk gloom and doom. Let's get back into medieval gloom and doom. So, what do you have, Hamilton?
Well, there's a couple of things, but this was sort of just fresh in, which I didn't even know any existed.
Wow.
But that's actually a proper 12th century Templar ceramic drinking vessel. Not a ritual thing. I mean, that is that's what they were using every day to day to have with their meals.
Oh, wow.
But beautiful,
They did-
very delicate, but with a little tiny hand-painted cross on it. It's
Lift it a
been
bit higher, Hamilton.
so
You
again,
can't lift it a bit higher. Let's see the logo.
I can't
Oh, that is so pretty.
see.
Wow, that's amazing. My gosh.
Yeah.
What is that made of?
It's terracotta,
Yeah.
unglazed terracotta. So the shape.
Unglazed.
Yeah. So I
Wow.
mean, it's 12th century.
It's right. It fits in with the poverty, chastity, and obedience, doesn't it? It's a very utilitarian, austere kind of very basic functional item.
Yeah.
The fact that it exists to me is fascinating, because it's not a really durable substance,
No, I mean, it's obviously been buried somewhere very dry, because I mean, there's been no moisture to fetch it. But no, very unusual thing. I'd never seen one illustrated before. I mean, I've seen medieval pottery. I mean, I've had lots of that, but I've never actually seen something that you could positively say is Templar.
Wow.
So that's a good little thing. I mean, I don't quite know, because I can't see myself. I don't really know what you can see or what angle you're at.
Yeah, no, we could see the front. Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Very delicate, a beautiful shape, very simple.
Wow.
Super little thing. So that's just come in fairly recently.
Wow, that is a beautiful piece.
Yeah.
And again, it's very simplistic. And again, the fact that it even exists to me is just like
Weird,
amazing.
Yeah. I mean, the lifespan of those things, even when they were made, they'd have just been broken and thrown away. They certainly wouldn't have been something that was greatly cared for. It was the most basic form of pottery you could get.
Mhm.
just simple utility, probably cheaply made. Or
It's not glazed, is it?
no, totally unglazed. No, the early stuff like this.
Oh, they
wasn't
wouldn't.
really glazed.
Yeah.
So yeah, great little thing. Complete oddity. You know, it's just very simple. You know, when you look at something like that, it's not worth massive money, but it's probably as rare as a chalice. Well, it's probably rarer. We've got 7 or 8 chalices, but we've only got one of these.
Them chalices, aren't
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the
Fabulous.
chalices are durable.
Somebody probably used that to cook and to measure out things, and the story behind that for me is more interesting than the others because
Almost,
it's
yeah.
real and it's normal.
it? It kind of shows the everyday life of a Templar, doesn't it?
Mhm.
Well, they're probably very similar to how monks lived, you know, when they're in the sort of digs wherever they're staying, you know, because it's yeah, you know, very simple food again, isn't it? Gruel and, you know, like grain and wine and water and a bit of fruit, anything that's going really, you know.
It's funny that you said monks because Michelle bought me a ring that it was 15th century, right? And it's bronze.
Mm.
Ring
I
that
can't
you
remember.
bought me.
I just
I
got.
have
I was
the
like, that
paperwork
was
with
good.
it.
That
It's
looks like an Amelia thing. So
I have it with a
It's
hagstone.
Jesuit.
And the interesting thing about Jesuit, and the interesting thing about this ring is that it fits every finger on my hand,
What, all 6?
which is really bizarre. Pardon?
All 6?
all 6.
What have you
Mutant
been
is what he's
drinking?
saying.
I only have 4. I only have 4.
So yes,
But
okay,
yeah.
yeah.
But what makes it Jesuit? Do they have specific imagery or logos? I mean, I again, it's not
It's
something I
got the
know.
symbols on it. I don't know. Yeah,
It's the
Okay.
cross. It's
I
the
no longer
cross on
have
it, and it's the cut. I have it. It's in my hutch, and
Yeah.
it's got the cuts
Next
in
show.
the band.
Yeah.
Show. I'll have it with the hagstone, which is really cool.
Okay.
But
From Jerusalem. Yeah.
I wear it
Everything
when
has
we
meaning.
work.
Uh,
Yeah,
everything
not
has
the radio
meaning.
show, but I wear it when we work. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but you know, I don't know. Like I say, I just I always try to seek out unusual pieces. You know, even for myself or my kids. Basically, were raised with antiquities.
Hmm.
You know, and that's the way it is. It's just, you know, from a very, very early age, they had an appreciation for really old pieces, you
Hmm.
know, especially, you know, swords and rifles. And, you know,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, whatever. My daughter's like, yeah, I'm not into that. The boy's like, yeah. So,
Great things for kids to grow up with strong memories, to, you know, that you've done that for them, because it enriches them so much, you know, and I think it expands their imagination because they're getting close to things like that, you know. I think it's fantastic.
it teaches history, culture, you know, and I think that's really important. It's like it's fine to do all the modern day stuff, the video games, and you know they've always leaned towards more medieval type video games also. Like I really got to see by nurturing them so young on all of that stuff that those are the type of games that they would choose, building a city. And you know it was very, very involved, and it's like, okay, I'm glad to see you actually got something out of everything I've tried to teach you. You know, I'd had to heckle with a few teachers along the way, but otherwise it's okay. You know, so
Did
but
they take the sword to show and tell?
I
Because that
think
could be
one
a
of them, the
problem at
samurai
school.
sword, yeah, I
That
think
could
it
be a
might have
problem
went.
at school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, don't go waving that around at school. You're liable to take somebody's head off. Don't do that. You know,
If you go to
but
school downtown Toronto, you can't even get past the
no,
metal detector at the front door with that. So just saying.
Mm. Like you wouldn't be able to sneak in a Templar sword. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Fair
Things
enough.
are like 50 feet long. You know,
wouldn't be able to sneak in a wired bra in a metal detector at school.
so
No.
that brings me to a question because you guys have a couple of Templar swords, yes? From
Well, there's only one Templar sword out of the Horde, which was the
Okay.
one that was in series 1. But yeah, I've got quite a lot of other swords of the same sort of period, but it's only really that one that you can try and sensibly say is Templar.
Okay, because my question was, I would have thought that they would be fairly difficult to find because many Templars were buried with their swords.
I don't
Is
think
that correct?
No, I don't think any Templars at all were buried with swords.
Oh, that's funny because I spoke with somebody one time who was, self-proclaimed, I mean, this was his thing was swords, and he had a large collection of swords, and he would do repairs on them. That was his thing, repair them, try to restore them. And he said, well, you couldn't find them because they buried them with them. I'm like, that's a freaking
He
waste.
can't hear you.
I know.
He can't even hear
Yeah, I
you
know.
right now.
Are you hearing me, Hamilton?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, sorry.
There you go. All right.
Just wandering around my office. No, completely wrong. They didn't bury them with swords. The
Wow.
only burials that tended to be with swords are the vast majority tend to be royalty. There's been a number of royal tombs in England and in Spain that have been opened up where they've been buried with a sword. But
Wow.
the average fighting man, and certainly the Templars, at that period, swords were just too valuable. I mean, it would have been considered
makes
utterly
sense.
wasteful, and things were reused and reused.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes the most
total
sense.
Yeah.
So no, that's a little inaccuracy. And I mean, the other things, I mean, as Carl pointed out, the early Templar burials, the legs were broken and folded up, and they were actually buried in much smaller coffins than regular tombs were. So you wouldn't have physically fitted a sword in.
That's just crazy to break everything.
Nobody really knows why, but it just seems to be something that they did.
It is possible that they were influenced by the Constantine cross, though, because that's how skull and crossbone things has got a similarity with the chiron and the plasm for the pirate cheek. There are some markers with skull and crossbones on them, so maybe they were influenced by that, the iron, because it's the sign of the cross of Christ, really, And if you follow the sign of the cross that was emblazoned in the sky, it's the path to righteousness and victory, and that might have been unique as a warrior's way of burial.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, when you go back to earlier periods in history, the Vikings tended to bury their warriors with all of their weapons. It was a tradition then that you went into the afterlife with everything that you needed, the same as the Egyptians buried everything in the pyramids. It was just
These are Celtic
exactly the same.
Chariots and swords and food bowls and stuff.
Yeah, but I don't know, maybe within the Christian tradition, perhaps you didn't need anything where you were going and there was no need to bury you with all your finery. I don't know, but certainly the Templar tradition wasn't burying you with weapons or anything really. And the vast majority went into unmarked graves. I mean, it wasn't, you didn't, other than an occasional Grand Master, the average Templar who died, that was it. He went in an unmarked grave with more or less the same grave decoration right across the whole Templar world. The gravestones in the Middle East are the same as the ones you see in France, Spain, and Portugal. It was just, that's what you got, a very simple cross headstone, and you were gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The Italians will not permit any jewelry in the casket. Because I remember when my mom was really sick, she said to me, make sure there isn't anything there. And I didn't understand. That was the first time I heard it. But where we're from, anyway, Southern Italy, there is not to be any jewelry buried with you.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. Why? What's the reasoning
It's
for that?
supposed to go, you're supposed to go back in humble, other than the clothing that is on you.
Okay.
Aside from grave robbers.
No, it's all about the gold and not even a wedding band. She's like, absolutely nothing. Because I remember my brother put a locket in and my father just lost it on him. It's like, you have to take that out. And he's like, it's not yellow gold though. And my father goes, you don't understand. It's jewelry. It's what she wanted. So yeah, I had to do that stupid run over with my dad to make sure that we didn't go through the same thing again. But it's a belief in that they have.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? Because if you look at a lot of the relics across in the cathedrals and churches across Europe, a lot of them are adorned with or embellished with, gilding and jewelry and garnets and emeralds and pearls, and so you can be talking of a casket with the bones of some saint in it, and it's highly, decorated with and embellished with very, very fine, stones and beautiful panelled silver sections and that. So it's slightly different, isn't it? But I suppose
it's different. Padre Pio, Saint Pio, is actually in a glass casket where he's observed at his church, San Giovanni di Rotondo. And, that's all part to show because he was the full stigmata, but nothing in the casket with him. No adorning on the sides, nothing, just glass so that they can view him.
Wow, okay. And that's just in Italy, or is that in other places? I mean, that wasn't something
I'm not sure. I just know that where we come from, the region where we come from in southern Italy is just that way. It's very, very simple in that way.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I haven't never heard that before.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I didn't either until she passed away. I had no idea.
Wow. Okay.
So.
I mean, I'm not fussed. I don't really care whether they bury me with anything or throw me in a skip. It doesn't matter to me. But I can actually see.
The only thing, I'm like you. I don't care because I'd say leave it up to who's left behind. Yeah,
they'll sort it out. But I can see.
I had a conversation with my dad years before he died, and he said, "Listen," he said, "when I snuff it," he said, "I want you to
snuff it.
I want you to phone the Liverpool Echo." Now, the Liverpool Echo is a newspaper for Liverpool. It's like the big sort of paper. And there's an obituary column in it, and everyone in Liverpool, it seems to be a preoccupation. Everyone every week reads the obituaries because everyone knows everyone, even though it's a city, it's a small family. So as a kid, I remember my mum and all my aunties, I see such a person's died. It was in the obituaries. And each family member would write a little description or a little prayer or something. And I was talking to my dad, we was having a whiskey session one night, and he said, "Listen," he said, "when I snuff it, I want you to phone the Liverpool Echo and put an obituary in for me." I said, "Okay." I said, "What do you want me to say?" So he told me what he wanted me to say, and sadly he died in 2008. And so I phoned the Liverpool Echo up, and I'm speaking to this woman on the phone, and she said, "Okay, so what do you want to say?" I said, "It's very simple." I said, "It's Harry Cookson's dead, so what?"
Brilliant.
And she
that's what he wanted.
Yeah, brilliant.
He wouldn't print it. She said, "Oh, we couldn't print that." I said, "That's what he wanted." And he wouldn't dare. My dad would have had a right good laugh if he had done that. But,
He wouldn't do it?
He wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do it.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it was bad. I thought it was bad. But, my dad always said, like Hamilton, he said, "When I snuff it," he said, "you can throw me in a garbage truck if you want. It's only my body. It doesn't matter." Because
my parents both had like what they wanted, and my dad would tell me a little bit over time. And his cousin, the only thing that we buried him with, other than the rosary beads in his hands, were medals that he was given. And I was asked for permission to be able to do that first. So,
I mean, some people put whiskey in the coffin, don't they, to give him a drink to take You know, I've been to funerals where
Hamilton, look, he's thinking about it. He's going,
Yeah.
I can
Will
have
you pour
whiskey.
some on the ground for them?
No,
We put casino chips in my brother's because my
Yeah.
brother was always at the casino.
Hamilton's and potato chips too.
Yeah.
Oh,
Whiskey and
casino.
potato chips. I see his wheels turning now.
Yeah, the cogs are going around, yeah.
My brother loved the casino, so everybody was dropping casino coins in the
The chips, right? Yeah. So that's
oh, it
funny.
was loaded. Yeah.
Well, I think funerals are for the benefit of the people who are still alive, not for the dead person.
Plus,
You know,
I agree.
Absolutely.
if they can have a bit of fun round the grave, throwing in casino chips or pouring some whiskey in, it lightens everything up and it gives you a good memory other than this depressed, like,
I'm sure it would lighten a lot.
I don't know. We did a whiskey shot for
Not in a
my
good way,
godfather
necessarily.
outside before putting him in the mausoleum. They were pouring shots, and I don't drink whiskey. I don't drink at all. So that was like, but you do it out of respect because it was for him, kind of thing. But
in Liverpool, I mean, obviously we've got a big Irish sort of influence because a lot of the people, in fact, part of my family come from Ireland, and you know the wake. It's not, we don't call it a wake in Liverpool, but there's definitely a big piss up after a funeral. You know, everyone goes for a reception, and it usually used to be in people's houses. Normally, aunties would make what we call a spread. You know, there'd be egg mayonnaise sandwiches, little pies, little sausages, and you know, all sorts of food. And then people did have one a few drinks, and they'd all be very somber and very dignified. And by the second drink, they're all going, ah, you know,
Oh,
just
yeah. Telling all the poor man's deepest, darkest secrets because he's not there to defend himself.
what did the Templars do? How did they handle a burial?
don't know. We don't know what the ceremony is, do we?
no, I mean that's I don't know the answer to that. I don't think I've ever read anything about it beyond it was just a very, very simple grave and it was unmarked. I don't know what the ceremonies were.
This is kind hard to
Interesting,
say.
since they were so spiritual.
I mean, I'd imagine that, you know, because they were in Temple Mount, and you know, a lot of the knowledge has come from there, with possibly the ceremonies and that there may have been some influence from the people of that region, that, or you know, the traditions and ways that people were buried there. Maybe, you know, if we looked into that as a field of study, you'd probably find some, you know, that might correlate to that.
Mhm.
I mean, I suspect that certainly over in the Middle East, it would just be disposing of the body as quick as possible because, I mean, you know, in the Middle East climate,
that is their tradition, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like still to this day, 24 hours.
Yeah. Even in, for example, in Serbia and Bosnia, people are buried the day after they're died. You don't wait around. And you look at the UK and the Western Europe and America, it's become an industry. It's a cash industry that generates big revenue. So, you know, you can have a shiny coffin, you can have a matte coffin, you can get a bronze one, you can have
gold one, yeah.
have these gilt handles. What type of car do you want? Do you want a gown? You know, it's like, what extras do you want? You know, do you want a super
Oh yeah,
size the job?
you go through showrooms of caskets.
Yeah, you know, and
Caskets, the rosaries, yeah,
Sure, I
everything.
used to have
It's a
one.
business.
and it's like,
I could have done, carriage hearse, everything. I could have done a whole freaking funeral.
it's like, I think it's like,
Right? I know. That would have been a lot of fun.
Oh my lord. Yeah,
Not
I'm not
anymore.
that comfortable. Yeah, I'm not that comfortable with it. Just not.
I just think they drag it on too long in the West. And years ago, I was thinking, why can't they make it a bit more exciting? You know, they could make like, if you could get in touch with NASA and develop like a star-shaped sort of coffin, and you could send it up in the shuttle, and then you could pick which star you wanted sent to, and we can watch it from Earth, and then they just lift your coffin out of the payload, and it's got like these little sort of retro thrusters on, and they point it to Orion or wherever you want it to go, and it sets you off on that journey forever. The only trouble is, if you wake up, some aliens might get hold of you and wake.
That's right. I know. I think they
Wow.
did that to Gene and Mabel Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek.
Yeah, they sent their
Did they?
He's in space. They're both in space.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
In
Yeah,
actually,
Good.
he passed first, waited for Majel, is that her name? For her to pass. And they were both put on one of the space shuttles, I believe, and dropped in space or like out someplace floating around.
Oh.
I know. There's a company I saw years ago. They'll turn your ashes into a diamond, and you can actually wear your relative
Yeah.
on your.
That's probably what I'll do.
Yeah.
Wayne Mallows asks, dying on the battlefield, did they leave them where they fell? Odd. Did they collect the bodies?
Pamela was like, what?
Or did they collect the bodies for the Templars? Yeah.
Again, it's down to logistics, isn't it? Because if you think about it, for example, if they had a big battle in the Middle East and they lost against, say, Saladin or that, there wasn't a chance to collect bodies in those instances, and they were getting beheaded and murdered.
Oh, they were greatly outnumbered.
So it wasn't like we'll have our bodies back and we'll take them to our local cemetery. But then you've got Templars that were in, fortresses like the one in Le Couvertoirade in France, a beautiful little fortress with a tiny graveyard, and I think there's about 8 to 10 markers in there. Now, they could have been Templars that, survived and lived and died there naturally and were given a dignified burial. So, it's just going to be a mixture, isn't it? It's a bit like, if you imagine like World War II, when the Americans and the Canadians were over in France, in Ypres, and places like that, a lot of them are buried there. There was no repatriation because the budget didn't allow that. Governments are happy to send people over to die, but they're not happy enough to provide the funds to repatriate the body and bring them back. So I would imagine, going back in the medieval period, would have been similar. There wouldn't have been the resource in battle to bring people back, unless he was someone special, like we've said with the guy we got the sword from that we believe is his sword. And
that's fascinating.
I mean,
Wayne
That is
says, thank you.
fascinating.
Makes sense.
on certainly in Western Europe, I mean, a great number of the medieval battlefields, even coming up to the 18th century, they tended to have burial pits where, it was a mixture that, like Carl says, you couldn't move the body, so it tended to be either burial pits or burial mounds. I mean, even going into the 18th century at Culloden up in Scotland, there's quite a number of what they refer to as clan graves, where they've just thrown each member of the same clan together. And I mean, there's been a very famous burial pit excavated in Denmark. And it was one of the few places that, they don't know why, but they actually threw the dead bodies in still wearing their armour, because normally armour was stripped off. And there's been, in the south of England fairly recently, there's been a burial pit excavated from the Viking era with about 20 or 30 bodies in it.
I read about that.
So it was probably just a convenient, well, we're not going to cart them off anywhere. You just dig a pit and throw them all in it, and they're all unidentified. They all died in the same battle. You all go in the same hole.
And you also got to remember with the Templars, they were big Christians, and they definitely believed in the afterlife and God and the salvation. It didn't matter whether they died on the back. Obviously, it mattered, but they didn't see their body as the totality of themselves. The spirit and their consciousness and the soul was eternal. So your body's a bit of a sideshow. It's not.
It didn't matter. Didn't matter at all.
Literally not the end of the world.
Wow. Wow. Well, it's sad to think about it when you think, like, not just, the Templars, but just soldiers in general, to not have proper burial, to never make their way home, to just be shoved in a pit, But spiritual people do believe that once, the body is done, it's done. It's only the vessel. The essence does continue on. And at the end of the day, that's, they were very spiritual. They had, I think, the knowledge that they acquired on the Temple Mount, which was basically, everybody seems to think that the treasure was a physical treasure, but I think there was a lot of knowledge, written knowledge, that they were also looking for, that would have really added to that spirituality and what came afterwards. There's a lot of stuff that went on in the Temple Mount.
And if you think about burial and memorials and gravestones, they in the hierarchy, the kings, it's still about power even in death. The mausoleums and the places of burial are actually places to tell the rest of the lower classes that, these are your leaders, this is your lineage. And it's a power play of the past is actually a power play to maintain the power for the future. In death, so for the next succession. And it's like, this family, this royal family is powerful, and you will see their grave forever. It's going to be protected by the people today, and it's going to be a better grave than Joe Public's grave. And that's the same all over the world for anybody who's in power. It's just another play on the whole game of control and the power of dynasty.
I agree.
Well, it is when you look at a lot of the sort of funerary monuments in England from the medieval period. I mean, they're made of marble that was shipped over from Italy. They brought craftsmen over to actually carve them. There was more effort put into a grave than probably most people's houses or eating vessels or anything they own. Just to demonstrate, like Carl says, even in death, we're still here. It's, the funerary traditions, it was carved in the likeness of the dead person.
Yeah.
And particularly with knights, even the sort of knights that actually made it back and died in relatively old age, all of the funerary effigies of knights, they always seem to depict the knight in his prime when he was in his sort of mid-30s. You'll never find a funerary monument that actually shows an old man knight, because it was the same thing. It was just demonstrating this is who he was in his lifetime. Wasn't he powerful and great?
And it's the same with the paintings, the commissioned paintings for in the Renaissance period. Rich families would commission a biblical painting of apostles and that, but they made sure that the characters were portraits of the family members to immortalize them and to give them the same level of prestige and piety and authority that they themselves venerated in a specific apostle. So it's vanity coming into play again, isn't it?
I'd have myself painted as Ronald McDonald with the great big shoes and the wig.
God, I know you would. Would you still have the hat on if you had the wig? Yeah. You just have the red hair coming out underneath it.
Wouldn't that make a fantastic gravestone? Instead of having a funerary monument of a knight, you have like this huge Ronald McDonald to be buried under. Oh,
I have tons of stuff from McDonald's from the 70s as a kid, though. Like their cups, the Hamburglar. Remember him?
Yeah.
I have all of those. Yeah. Well, that was it was a big treat being Italian to be eating a hamburger out. Like it just didn't happen. Eating out didn't happen, period. As an Italian,
that's
when
what
I was
Hamilton was trying to say. It's like a treat every day when he gets to go to McDonald's.
No, it's changed. You have to remember, from when we were growing up to now, it's changed a great deal. All the fast food industry has.
Yeah.
kids. There wasn't restaurants.
Yeah.
It was. I think when we was going on holiday once to Cornwall, we stopped once and found a restaurant. But it was, eating out was going to fish and chip shop maybe once a week, or once.
Even for us, yeah.
But it was my mum cooked at home, and we just had plain food. It was meat and veg and a few potatoes and a variety. We did it.
I made fish and chips last week.
Yeah.
Beer battered too. Beer battered. Yeah.
Oh, it's the fish thing again.
I love cooking. I'll put chicken in it for you.
I don't mind
just love to
halibut.
cook.
I'm okay with halibut.
That's what I made.
When I'm in Rome, I
halibut.
do like the Romans. I've tried all kinds of crazy things. I'm not fond of things that crawl along the bottom of the ocean and eat ew, whatever. And then
Nutella on pizza though.
Yeah, it's just like shellfish and stuff is like, yeah, I don't think so. What have you eaten
No.
today? I'm not eating that lobster. No.
Yeah.
No.
That's
Yeah,
that's
Well,
a whole different thing.
We filmed a sequence when we were over in Santiago de Compostela, which I think was the last thing we did there in a very traditional Spanish restaurant, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like
Cookson. And they were trying to get me to eat it's a clam, isn't it? It was a
No,
clam.
see right there, like ew.
That was a scallop, like a San Jac scallop, the classic.
Oh,
Scallop.
scallops are
sure.
amazing if you do them right.
Hamilton and I are both
Oh
sitting
my-
going, ooh.
Scallops are amazing.
Yeah,
No.
Right from the sea, the divers, you have to have the divers scallop. They have to be dry and you sear them with Calabrian chilies. Oh my God.
I would
they're
rather
so
eat
good.
freaking McDonald's. I'm with Hamilton on that.
But a scallop, when you cook a scallop, it's like eating a thick piece of like white fish. It's not what you think. It's not slimy or anything, and
you
it doesn't
walk on
taste
with your bad
like
self
fish.
and eat as many as you would like. You can
Damn
have my share.
straight, man. I do. I
Okay.
eat like 10 at a time. I love them. I mean,
That's-
tons
when
of garlic and hot chilies. Yeah.
you go to the Isle of Man when you go the Grand Prix or the TT, and they sell a scallop called a queenie, and the miniature scallops are about the size of a
Yeah.
cent. They're a really tiny scallop, but
They're sweet.
yeah. But I love.
I use those in risotto. I make risotto with those.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what?
It always ends up
Hamilton
on
and I are
food, and
just
Joel's
like-
listening too. Oh, seafood risotto is just amazing. But my favorite
Maybe
is with
drench it in
truffles.
wine, maybe. Then I would try
I mean,
it.
I'd never
Oh,
even
risotto is started with wine.
I'd
Yeah.
never even seen a clam before. I didn't know what it was. And they kind of
You live
plop
in England. There's
Put
fish surrounding you. What do you mean?
thing on the table. I mean, Carl was up for it. He's adventurous with food. But I mean, I just looked at this thing. It looked like something you coughed up. I mean, the idea of actually putting
I'm with him.
It doesn't look. A clam looks like you coughed it up.
Yeah. Totally with
No,
Hamilton
scallops
on
are
that.
divine.
Oh
Scallops.
my
are-
gosh.
Yeah.
Well, he
I
actually came
love
out.
scallops.
He's saying it looks like something you coughed up. But he's
We gotta get
got
off there.
noodles and kebabs. I mean, some of these kebabs, God knows how many different deceased farm animal carcasses one kebab made of.
That's in a McDonald's burger. Just saying.
Go to these most dubious environments at 2 a.m. to get a doner kebab. And there's a guy there, big thing loaded with meat, and there must be 30 anonymous deceased carcasses all over. Then the fella's shaving it.
No
And
different than eating a hot dog, really.
Yeah.
Oh, Wayne
You-
says good night, everyone. Thanks
you-
so much, lads. Love your stories. Best of
Okay,
luck
bye.
on season 2.
Oh,
Cheers.
thank you very much.
Yeah, it's already that stinking time too. Damn. That's already, yeah. We're gonna get spanked, not in a good way if we don't get off on this.
We've talked a lot about death tonight, haven't we, for some reason? About the Dead People show.
Well, life's hard, then you die. So
The Dead People show, is this something I want to know about?
I'm just saying,
Probably.
our conversation tonight's generally been about dead people, about the dead.
It really has. But I always say it's sort of off the cuff with you guys, and it's sort of whichever way the show goes, we just sort of roll with it.
Exactly.
So it's just part of letting people get to know who you guys are, because when you do, and I mean, coming from doing a lot of television myself, you only catch snippets, and it's usually pretty much scripted snippets. It's not off the cuff. And a lot of comments that I've received about the shows that you guys have been on was just like, it was so nice to see them just have fun and
Yeah.
let loose and talk about whatever you wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
And I thought,
easier.
I like it.
It is, but sometimes, like, before you come on, you're thinking, oh, I hope we are we going to come up with anything interesting? You don't know. It's like, it's pop luck, isn't it, really? Because you don't know whether
You're on the right show. Just follow suit. And eventually
With it.
it all comes out. It doesn't matter. We all determine that Hamilton loves McDonald's, even has freaking golden arches. And some of us don't favor it at all. Okay, we talked about how freaking what is it that looks like somebody died or barfed? What were we talking about? Clams?
Wow.
Oh my God. So you see right there, like, we've learned that Hamilton, not so far on the clams. Carl,
Not
we'll
fond
go
of
with it.
anything but burgers, kebabs, and fries.
Yeah, see? But I can relate to
Shorter
that.
list. It's a shorter list if you ask him what he likes.
we have the same drill with Hamilton. When we go filming, what usually happens, we're up at like 6:30. We have our breakfast and we're on location about 8:30. So then we don't get back to the hotel till about 7:45, 8 o'clock. Quick shower, and then we meet the crew at a restaurant for dinner. And it's the same story every time. So the waiter comes round, we're all made up to be in a different country ordering food. And then Hamilton,
Hate
and he
it.
goes, right, I don't want anything you've got there. He said, but I'll have the steak. And the waiter goes, yes, how do you like it cooked? He says, can you incinerate it for me, please? He goes,
Incinerate it.
he goes, yes. He says, imagine it's been in a nuclear explosion, black. Can you do it like that? And they don't believe him, so they go in the kitchen. They
Back
come
he
back,
goes.
well done, and he sends it back till it's like a rubber boot sole.
Yeah.
I mean,
You offended many chefs, I'm
Yeah.
assuming.
Yeah, even I like mine pretty much walking off the plate. So
Yeah.
I tell you what, in France, it's virtually impossible to get that done because
Yeah.
if you ask for well done, bien cuit, it's called in their language, well done. If you ask for your steak bien cuit, that means well done, but in actual fact, it's probably for an English person, medium, what their well done is, because they like it blue. They really like it. They'll just touch it on the pan and it's cooked. Not for
Yeah, I
Hamilton.
can't eat it that way. My daughter can, but I can't.
No, I don't like that.
Yeah.
Oh
No,
my God.
my steak looks like, imagine cutting a piece out of this chair you're sitting on. That's what my steak
Oh,
would
yeah.
look like.
Your leather.
I'll just give me shoes sometimes for the dinner because it's
I don't think he'd know the difference.
Just get him a portion of chips and give him one of
just
me.
throw it on the grill.
Well, that's what we had while Carl was tucking into his clams. I had 2 great big platefuls of chips. We couldn't go near it. It just turned my stomach.
They're funny. I'm just saying. I think dinner would just be an adventure with you. Honestly. I know. But I dibs the chalice. I want wine in the chalice. I don't care if it poisons me. I'll get through it.
Oh my God.
Well, the filming we've got coming up now is sort of, that's it, series over and done with. So it's our final chance to abuse the hospitality account, and we're going to hit it next week. We really are. If there's any budget left, we're drinking it. Trust me.
I look forward to your photos on Facebook.
Well, before we get like totally scolded, I actually have to sign off the show. It's wherever.
Oh,
I know. Well, I went over because, we had such a dang mix up in the beginning, but I was such a pleasure having you guys on. You guys are back on in August. So you have time. I guess you're going to be filming, probably starting another project, and you have lots of time to build something up. But I look forward to, again, watching your adventures on social media. You guys are both really great, especially Carl at posting everything, and just keep getting the fans just riled up for what's coming next. So thank you for joining us. I really look forward to the next show.
cool.
Yeah, thank you guys, Amelia and Michelle. It's great. We love coming on your show because you
Because
just
we love Folgers coffee. It's great.
That a boy, Hamilton. Look at you go.
You got it.
Woo.
You got it.
Yeah.
I'll
That's
send
the
you.
team
I'll send you a
spirit.
McDonald's gift card. I'll send you a
Right
gift card to
there.
McDonald's.
There we go.
Take it with you to Spain.
Yeah, but Universal, have it anywhere. Mind you, with that being said, I could not use a Canadian Starbucks card in frickin' England. Okay, so what the hell? We're part of the Commonwealth, and they wouldn't let me
Wow.
use it. I'm like, bastards. So, yeah,
Her
so much for
face
that.
is on all of our money.
I don't
Face.
know what to tell you. It was on the dang
Wow.
phone too. Travel light, they say. All right, everything's in the damn phone. Still couldn't get a damn Starbucks with it. So anyway, love you, Starbucks. But that was not your finest moment. Anyway. So
You can
guys, we
use some
shall
Barbados. Just saying.
we shall see you guys in a couple of months. So please take care of yourselves. Have fun, travel safely,
Enjoy.
and
And thanks for everyone listening. Appreciate all your comments and for watching us. It's brilliant. Thank you so much.
Nice one.
thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you
Cool.
guys.
We'll
Thank
see
you.
when
Thank
we
you,
say
Russ.
August, we're back, are we?
Yeah.
August. Okay.
We'll remind you.
I could go on for another hour, but I'd probably get fired. So,
Surprise.
bye, guys. Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Good night. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Well, everyone, we've come to the end of another fantastic segment here in the Outer Realm. Thanks to everybody who tuned in. Huge thank you to Carl Cookson and Hamilton White from the Lost Relics of the Knights Templar. If you haven't seen the show yet, go out of your way to find it. It's just awesome. Discovery Channel here in the US has it. And of course, you can find it all over the UK, I'm sure. But remember to stop by YouTube, International Public Radio, UFO Paranormal YouTube channels.